Intellectual stew. Oh, we're cooking something true.
Marriage for him was like making masturbated.
Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirkland guiding through the deep, the light,
Let me ask you
the old, the new intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view. Intellectual stew. Oh, we're cooking something true. Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirkland guiding through the deep, the light, the old, the new intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view.
What's up? What it do? Time for another episode of the Intellectual Stew with yours truly, aka James Kirkland, James K, aka the Mind Massager. I'm pleased to make your acquaintance tonight. I was on a little earlier today talking about this product that we do, that we're promoting, entitled the Sister Clark. But I'm coming tonight with open mic night, the Intellectual Stew, and I'm excited. Listen, as you come in tonight, I'm a little early. I'm 5 minutes early because, truth be told, I couldn't wait to get on. So while we're on, let me give you a couple of minutes to come in. Let me turn this music back on for a minute, and then we'll get the show started in just a moment. Y'all come on in the room. Let's go.
Intellectual stew. Oh, we're cooking something true.
Come on in the room.
Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirkland guiding through the deep, the light, the old, the new intellectual stew. Yeah,
I'm people I would send it
we're
to them.
stirring up the view.
Go one more time. I know some people are gonna come in and leave, but we're gonna get it going in a second.
Oh, we're cooking something true. Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirkland guiding through the deep, the light, the old, the new intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view.
Hey, what's up, Kenny? I'm gonna let this music flow one more time because I'm still sending this to some people.
Oh, we're cooking something true. Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirkland guiding through the deep, the light, the old, the new intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view. Intellectual stew.
I really didn't want to let it go that last time. Since it's going one more time, we gotta go. I'm sorry, I love my music.
Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirkland guiding through the deep, the light, the old, the new intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view.
All right, that's enough of that. But listen, I've been enjoying these last few shows that we've been doing. And basically what we've been kind of dealing with is kind of faith after a fall, or maybe you can call it rebounding after making a public mistake. And tonight we're going to continue that theme. Tonight we're going to discuss, and I appreciate all of you all for coming in. I appreciate your support every week. You all don't realize it. Those of you all who show up consistently, it means a lot to me, and I don't take it for granted. But tonight we're going to deal with shame. And I want to say openly to shame that shame is a liar. And but we're going to talk about rebuilding after a public fall. Now, as you come in tonight, do me a favor. First of all, react. Either like it, heart it, do something, because I got to get this algorithm rolling. And then if you just comment and maybe tell me where you're listening from, or say hello, or maybe a word of encouragement or something, just say something and let's get this algorithm going. Let's get this conversation going. And we're going to get deep into this tonight. We're going to talk about shame being a liar. How many times have shame tried to tell your story? Because shame will share its own version of the story. In a moment, I'm going to put the link in, because I really want this to be an open mic night tonight. I don't want this to be a monologue, because this is a situation that all of us encounter at some time or another, if we are honest, right? But let me just say this. Tonight is, the truth be told, tonight is not really, it's not really about divorce. It's not really about public failure. What's up, Marlon? It's not about public failure. It's not really about shame, to be honest with you. What this tonight is about identity. Because the truth is, many of us survived the event, but we're still carrying the story we told ourselves about the event. And sometimes the most damaging thing that happened wasn't what people said about us. It was when we started saying, or what we started saying about ourselves. So if you've ever had a relationship end, made a mistake, disappointed yourself, disappointed others, or felt like your life didn't turn out the way you expected, then this conversation is for you. And as always, if something resonates with you tonight, put it in the comments, or and make sure you share the broadcast, tag someone who may need to hear this. Let's help somebody tonight realize that their story isn't over, because shame has a way of sharing its own version of the story. But tonight, we're not going to let shame win. What's up, Marlon from Seattle, and all of you all who are listening? Like I said, I really, really do appreciate you all for tapping in. We're not going to be on super long tonight, but I did want to come on, and I wanted to share this. Let me put the topic back up again. Share. All right, there it is. Shame is a liar. Rebuilding after a public fall. For a long time, what I thought, and I'm just telling my story, I thought I was carrying was guilt. Because what guilt says is that I did something wrong. But the difference between guilt and shame is, while guilt says I did something wrong, shame changes the dynamics, and shame says I am something wrong. And that is a dangerous shift, because Guilt focuses on behavior, evaluating what happening, while shame attacks your identity. Guilt focuses on the behavior, while shame it attacks your identity. I didn't realize it, but somewhere along the way, I had stopped evaluating what happened and started evaluating who I was. And I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. But the moment shame gets involved, you're no longer trying to recover from an event. You're trying to recover from a label. And it's not always what others are saying about you. Thank you, Marlon. It's what you're saying about yourself. I used to hear Pastor Craig Oliver say, it's three opinions that matter to me. It's my opinion of God, God's opinion of me, and my opinion of myself. And the sad reality is that many of us, we see externally how we view ourselves internally. Do y'all agree with that? We see on the outside a symbolism, a microcosm, an imagery of the things that we've seen. How we view ourselves is how we view the world. If we have a negative perception, a negative misconception of ourselves, that's how we view the world. It's whole Carmelo Anthony issue going on right now. Everybody that looks at it, most people, unless you're a critical thinker, most people, when they look at it, they only see it one-sided because they see life how they see themselves. And so when you allow shame to share your story, especially after a very public fall, and it don't even have to be a public fall. It could be a private fall, because when you realize that you've fallen, you start to view the world based on that, how you perceive people viewed your fall. Does that make sense? That's why guilt says I did something wrong. I'd rather be guilty than be shamed, because guilt says I did something wrong, but shame says I am something wrong. And as long as you believe that you're a mistake, as long as you believe you're less than, as long as you believe that you're undeserving, as long as you believe that you've disqualified yourself, if you believe that you're stuck in a constant state of forfeiture, where you forfeited everything that God had blessed you with. Paul said, I count all things lost for the excellence. He said, I forfeit all things. When you feel like when things weren't taken from you, but you forfeited those things through your behavior, then what'll happen is you'll put yourself in a mental prison. You'll place your mind under the subjection of mind cuffs, and you'll end up putting a glass ceiling up where there shouldn't be a ceiling. And see, that was my biggest problem. When I started trying to rebuild after the shame, the biggest thing I didn't know the difference between guilt and shame until it was too late. And we have these kinds of conversations because I don't want you to get stuck in the state that I was because for a long time, I thought guilt and shame were the same thing, but the truth of the matter, they're not. Guilt deals with the behavior, but shame attacks your identity. Shame causes you to question who you are. Do I have a purpose? Have I forfeited that purpose? Yeah. Guilt says I didn't know the difference between guilt and shame until it was too late. And then when you start sinking farther, right, and you start thinking even worse about yourself, and you put yourself in this place where you've already really sentenced yourself, in a sense, then it's a hard hole to come out of. You find yourself in a pit, and in that pit that you find yourself in, you know, it's tough to be in a pit, especially a muck and a miry pit, because a miry pit is a muddy pit. And in a muddy pit, it's tough. It's hard to get a foundation to stand the way that you're trying to think, because in order to get up, you got to have some type of foundation. You got to have a foundation, right? Oh, let me put the phone up. I got the phone number up. But hey, what's up, Connie? I hadn't seen you in a long time. Let me put the phone number up in case somebody wants to call. Tonight we're dealing with shame being a liar, because the fact of the matter is some of us, too many of us, have given shame a voice in our life. And we made the mistake of thinking that guilt and shame were the same, when in all actuality, they're not. Hey, what's up, Bradley? They're not. Because shame deals with, guilt deals with behavior, but shame deals with identity. And that's what the enemy wants to do. He wants to make you think that you are less than. He wants to make you think that you don't deserve. If he could just plant that much of a seed of doubt, I mean, just that much to make you think. I mean, even with Eve, when he said, "You mean you can't eat?" I mean, he said, "You can't eat of all the fruit." I mean, all the tree. You can. I mean, if he could just play, and when you start to question your identity based on something that you did, one mistake, and let me tell you something, baby, one mistake should not define you. It should not. It should not, because the moment shame gets involved, you're no longer trying to recover from the event you did, and it was an event. Instead, you're trying to recover from a label, and the label that you have is the label that you've given yourself. Can we talk for a minute? Let me ask a question, since we got a few people in the room, and I want y'all to talk to me. Let me ask a question. Let's get this conversation started tonight. Here's the first question tonight. First question. Have you ever found yourself apologizing for something long after everyone else has moved on? Tell the truth. You can either say yes or no, or you can say yes and tell what happened, and we appreciate it. But shame will have you doing stuff like that. Shame will have you apologizing for stuff. And everybody, I know so many times that God had forgiven me, other people had forgiven me, but the person who had not forgiven me was me. Let me see what Melissa said. Sunshine Shining says, shame keeps you in a place to hide, but forgiveness starts change from within to reveal your outward appearance. Absolutely. Absolutely. Y'all answer that question for me. Have you ever found yourself apologizing for something long after everyone else had moved on? And if you did, guess what? That wasn't guilt. That was shame, because you felt a certain way, shame, whenever you came into contact, or you've never felt, you never, Bradley, you a bad man. Bradley said he's never found himself apologizing, and that's a healthy place to be in. And I'm better now, but there was a time in my life when I had such a negative perception of myself that I think that other people, I thought everybody else. When I started healing is when I started saying to myself, I hope I can see myself how everybody else sees me. That's when I started my process of healing. When I started to rebuild. When I started saying, when I get to the point where I can see myself how others see me, right? When I don't, as Bradley, as you talked about the week you were on, when I no longer have to put on the mask, right? When I never have to operate with a performance mentality to perform so I can live up to certain people's expectations because I think they have a certain expectation of me and because they have that expectation of me. But when I operate in shame, and especially after that divorce, because I mean, I was Reverend Kirkland, right? And I had been beautiful family, two daughters and son, and I mean, and preaching, and living in nice houses and driving nice cars, and we looked the part and all those, and then all of a sudden I get that news and I have no control of it because I can't stop her. She's ready to go, so she's gone. And I mean, and I had to deal with the public of that. I mean, especially when the people that didn't know, when they just walk up to you and say, how's your family? And you say, well, they're fine, right? But when that one little question triggers so much, because every time they say, how's your family? It reminded me of what I lost. And if I wouldn't apologize to anybody else, I'm apologizing to my children. Does that make sense? I'm apologizing to my, I mean, and I'm dealing with the shame of that. And every time I dealt with the shame of that, the way I responded to it, because that weight was so heavy, as I would go and sit on my couch and wait on the next day and hope. And I was kind of stuck in a juxtaposition, because I mean, I didn't want any harm to come to me or anything, but there was a part of me that hoped the day wouldn't come because I didn't want to face it. But then there was a part of me that was hoping I can get out of this day, because I can't believe I had to deal with this reality. Does that make sense? I know y'all all got it together. I'm just talking about me. I'm talking about me. So the first thing I did is as I was rebuilding this identity, the mistake I made is I didn't know the difference between guilt and shame until it was too late. But the second thing is I kept showing up on the outside while I was disappearing on the inside. Has anybody ever done that? In fact, let me put the camera link in the chat. Y'all talk to me. What's up, Kim? How you doing, sis? You all right? Bradley, man, I appreciate you for stepping by and checking on us tonight. Is anybody else? Am I the only one that's ever had to deal with shame and then probably handled it improperly? I promise you. But I thank God now that as I heal emotionally, that part of that healing is being able to recognize emotions, right? Part of the healing process is being able to recognize emotions. And once you recognize emotions, right? Once you recognize emotions, learning how to name it. And then once you name it, you give it an identity. And then you place it somewhere. You don't let it because see, every negative emotion needs a body. Okay. Every negative emotion, even every emotion needs a body, but a negative emotion especially needs a body. And if you don't recognize that emotion, what that emotion will do is it will rear its head in your life. And before you know it, it will take over. It'll have you depressed. It'll have you suffering with anxiety. It'll overwhelm you. So you have to be careful. That's why positive mental health is knowing how to manage your emotions. Hold on. Tap this link. I'm putting the link in the chat for those that want to come on. Yep. But I kept showing up. While on the outside, but every time I showed up on the outside, I kind of forfeited a piece of me. Does it mean I was still showing up? I was still going to work when I had to go to work. Thank God I didn't have to work a full-time job back then. I couldn't have people like that. It would have been too difficult to people like that. But God worked it out where I could work weekends. I worked 3 weekends a month and made enough money. Man, I did well. But I kept showing up, still working, still preaching, still doing what people expected me to do. Right? Right. But internally, as I did what people expected me to do, I was disappearing on the inside. Going to the kids' games and having to be around, family that now we used to sit together. Now we're sitting apart and going through I'm still showing up, doing what people, but internally I'm disappearing. And the truth of the matter is that was exhausting. I mean, some of those rides home would be the loneliest rides home because I would remember, I mean, even, it wasn't that it was all great memories, but it wasn't really any bad memories, right? But they were mine and they were memories. And I was exhausted. But do you realize the reason I was so exhausted is because I had to perform, and performance takes energy. Holding yourself together in public while you're showing up publicly, but you're inside, you're empty, kind of an empty shell because you're disappearing. holding yourself together, that takes energy, man. Pretending like you're okay, you know, because you're supposed to be the strong one, right? That takes energy. And then eventually you discover that surviving and healing are not the same thing. There's a difference between surviving and healing. You know, surviving and just getting to the next day. But if I didn't deal with what happened yesterday, then I'm not. Hey, what's up, Keisha? How you doing? If you want to join the conversation, because I did invite you, the link is in the chat. Get in, kind of get in. What we're talking about tonight is shame being a liar. And the first point I made was that I did at the time I didn't know the difference between guilt and shame. And the point I'm on now is that I kept showing up on the outside while disappearing on the inside, right? And at a certain point, I thought surviving and healing were the same because, you know, many times we're taught to move on. You know, that's just a natural reaction, right? It's a natural inclination, right? That just you know, if I can just get to next day, if I can get beyond this, if I can just move on, if I can reach beyond the break, if I can get, then eventually it's like kind of like sweeping enough dust under the rug. But if you sweep enough dust under the rug, eventually there's going to create a lump somewhere in the rug. And eventually, if the lump becomes large enough, you're going to trip later. So surviving and healing are not the same thing. Healing is doing the work. Healing is getting the therapy you need. Healing is going through whatever recovery system you need to go through. If there is an addict, whatever type of substance abuse someone is on, if they're addicted and they want to get healed and they go to a program, they have to go through the steps. You can't circumvent the steps. You have to go through the steps. And then at the end of it, if you do what you're supposed to do, when you come out a new person. If you've survived a public fall, and if shame was part of the situation, and you're trying to get beyond that, you can't just survive. You got to heal, because survival is good, but survival kind of involves survival tactics. And when you use survival tactics to cope, then sometimes you'll do whatever you have to do by any means. It doesn't create a system. I hope I'm making sense. Am I making sense? Y'all not talking back to me tonight. Y'all not talking back. Okay, Keisha gonna come in, so she'll tell me if I'm making sense tonight. Hold on, let me get her in. Cause all right, what's up, Keisha?
Hey, what's going on?
Good. Let me turn your volume down. You scared me, but that's good
I'm
though.
sorry.
No, it ain't your fault. That's good. I got these things up loud. So I've been posting a few things, and I've noticed you've responded, and all of it is kind of my process after my divorce and things that have happened in my life. And some of these things that I'm talking about, it seems like you are identifying with. So tonight we're dealing with the shame aspect, but what particularly have I said this week that has resonated with you so far that made you want to come on and talk with us tonight?
Well, just the you had the A, B, C, D, and E, choices, and I just felt like a lot of it that question was so loaded, so you really couldn't just have one answer. As for me, I'm speaking for me. And so I was like, man, he is really, this is things that need to be talked about as far as when people go through a divorce. You just never know all the steps that you're dealing with all at one time individually, so everything that you were touching on, I was like, man, I know that feeling. I was there, I've been there, still there, so I just appreciated you putting it out there, because it is something to talk about. People do need to have a.
That's good. That's good. I'm trying to find the question.
You had quite a few of them that had that was loaded this week.
Yeah, they were loaded, and they are. Their purpose is really just to, of course, create conversation. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to find the question, the particular question that I asked, because that was one that you did jump in on. I'm backing up. I'm going through my Facebook page right now trying to find
You're
it.
fine.
I'm almost there. So Do you remember the question? Is this it?
I
No, this is
don't,
it.
because it was so many. So, I was just like, well, I'm just glad he's touching on this subject matter anyway, because
Here
it's
it is.
something, need to be talked about.
All right, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. The question was, when you made your biggest mistake, what hurt the most? And one of them, and it was A, B, C, D. It was losing people's trust, losing confidence in myself, feeling judged by others, and wondering if God still wanted me. That was one of them. But I think it was a few
Mhm.
up. Let me. In fact, I probably can share it. Let me share it. Yeah. Let me share the page. Hold on one second. Share screen, Facebook. Boom. All right. So let me find the questions. That's one question, y'all, was when you made your biggest mistake, what hurt the most? Losing people's trust, losing confidence in myself. In fact, let me put that on the, I can make that a question for the night. I can make that a question for the night. I didn't used to be this techie, y'all, for real. I used to be I used to be a horrible tech person, but now I took this little AI class and I think I know everything about tech. So I'm
Oh,
joking.
wow.
I, I don't know much. I'm still don't know much. All right, so let me see if I can get this in here. Yep, I can. I can. Keisha, you helped me already. Okay, so there the first question is, y'all.
Okay.
That's the first one. And then it was another one that I think this the one that got you. Let me see. Or maybe that was the last one. Let me see. Was that the one? If it wasn't, y'all go to
It
my
was
page
two
and you
of
can
them
see
that
all the
really,
questions. But we're gonna
right.
that's
It
the
was
one we
two of
how
them.
about that. We're gonna
Mhm.
yeah, I knew it was another one. But let's discuss this one right now. So with
Okay.
you, when you made
Hmm.
your biggest mistake, or after that fall, whatever, what hurt the most? Was it losing? You put D, I remember losing people's trust, losing confidence in myself, feeling judged by others, or wondering if God still wanted me. So talk
Yeah.
about that. You said wondering if God still wanted you. Talk about that.
Yeah, because sometimes when when you make mistakes, you feel like God can't use you anymore. And you have to revert back to the Bible. He used David, he used trying to think of all the people that Peter. I mean, he used them all. And but when it's you just feel like God, like, dang, I made this big mistake. Can God even use me anymore? Does he even want me to even go out and speak on his word? And I felt like that after my fallout. I did, because I'm a praise dancer, and I always danced at church and had my own dance team. And I just, when everything went the way it went, I didn't even feel like God wanted me to even dance anymore. None of it.
Wow.
I just felt like I couldn't be used anymore. But that slowly but surely he is, showing me that yes, I can still use you. And yes, this is the time I'm gonna use you, because this is when I can use you the most. You can be a testimony to someone, and because sometimes the things we go through is not for us, it's for someone else,
Yeah.
so that's why I felt like that. I wondered, and you know, that's a heavy question. Wondering if God can still use you. He can use anybody, but you feel like you hurt God so bad that He don't even want to look at
Mm.
you. You know.
Wow. Wow.
Mm.
Did y'all hear what she just said? And the truth, and y'all, she's not the only one. She said you feel like you hurt God so bad that you don't even it's hard to even face yourself. And I'm not checking her or nothing of that kind of sort, because what we know about God, right? We know that he's married to the backslider. We
Mm-hmm.
know that he loved us with an everlasting love, right? We know that Romans 5:8 says he commended his love towards us, and yet that while we were sinning. Commended in the Greek means he advertised his love, right? We know all
Mm-hmm.
these things, that he loves us so much. But when shame puts its lens or its filter on our lenses, it allows us to see what is in a whole different way. And God don't even see it like that. God is married to the backslide, and not even that you backslid, right? I mean, you mean even in your relationship, a lot of times it wasn't nothing that's, and I'm talking to sisters now. It's nothing, wasn't anything that I know in my situation. I know I was the guilty part in that relationship, right? I know I was the guilty part in that relationship. I've owned that reality since the beginning. You know what I'm saying? But still, even sometimes people who didn't do the wrong in the incident still think that they still punish themselves, and that's a tough spot to be in, to think that God can't use you if God still wants you. That was tough. I just found the other question too that we were
Okay.
referring to. Let me see if I can put it up. I was trying to make a quick little overlay, but I'm not gonna do it. It'd be too much time. Is it gonna let me get it in there? It might not. Well, let's see where to stop. All right, so so that wasn't the one I want. I'm messing up now. I might have to make. Oh no, there it is. There it is. All right. When the relationship ended, what did you struggle with most? Am I enough? Can I trust again? Did I waste my time? What now? Where was God? F all the above. So many people put all of the above on that one. But talk about that question for a moment.
Okay, you talking me?
Yeah, you. Yeah.
Okay. So when my divorce happened, it was very public. I mean, just it was a lot. And so those are all the questions that I had, like, can I trust again? Because there was some trust issues there. It was other people that inserted themselves in a situation that did not have to be inserted. Family from both sides. And things that you confided in your family about, different things. And that's where you learn, how you hear when you're growing up, keep your marriage to yourself and stuff like that. But you still need people to, vent to or talk to. But I'm looking back, I can say, what, I should have talked to God a lot more than what I did. And then looking at how long I was married, for 20 plus years, I ask myself daily, did I waste my time? I have my beautiful kids behind it, but I'm like, 20 plus years, that's a lot of time. And do you want to start that over with someone, trying to learn someone again and be with them for this time forever? Or, Lord, I don't want to waste my time, um, those were questions. And then what now? What now was my biggest thing, because when I was with this person, we got out the mud, because that person he didn't have all the elements of going into a marriage. It was really work. Like, we didn't have anything, and then we ended up with a lot more than what we had. And so going through the divorce, it's like starting all over, and you looking at God like, what now? I gotta go stay in an apartment. No offense to anybody living in an apartment, none whatsoever. Please don't take that the wrong way. But I was like, dang, I gotta go start from from here to there again. Like, dang, but God is good. I was able to recover. It took some time, but I was able to recover. And then where was God? I was like, now God, my upbringing, in my childhood, why would you bring me this far with this person and then, end it all? Why would you do that? Where are you?
Wow. Keisha, let me tell you something. I want to say this to you. I really appreciate your transparency. And those of you in the chat, y'all, give her some fire, some love, give her some hearts, give her something for sharing her story, because what you're doing for me is you're saying the other side of where I was. I was 20 years married. My mistake was I learned how to be married, but I grew up in the marriage, and growing up in the marriage can produce growing pains, right? And pain is hurt. Pain hurts, And all of us, but some of us handle pain, and I always believe women have y'all deliver babies, right? So I believe y'all have a higher tolerance for pain. Now, I ain't gonna lie, that sciatic nerve I went through a couple of months ago. Now, that was the worst pain I had ever felt in my life. But y'all deliver, so y'all have a very high tolerance for pain. So y'all are able to stay in the situation, go through the pain. And I think sometimes y'all even start the healing process while you're still in the marriage before but it hit me when she told me, James, me and the girls found a rental and we're moving out. I said, ugh. I wrote a chapter in my book, Stuck on the Couch. I called it The Conversation I Should Have Had. Because when she told me what she told me, I said, oh, okay. And I went downstairs and laid on the couch, and a whole lot of thoughts went through my mind. I get to be single. Do I really want to be single? I put all this in my, and then eventually a couple of months later, I even told her, well, I'm who you want me to be now. Why would you give somebody else the benefit of what you built? And she's like, I had enough. I'm done. It's over. And to hear you say, that you're willing to give up the house, even though you got it, because I'm moving from that 4-bedroom house into a 1-bedroom apartment. Boy, that was so humbling. But I didn't get to take the kids with me. I didn't get to take the dog with me. I took a little bit of the old furniture that she didn't want, but for all that pitter and patter of feet and arguments and dog barking and doorbell ringing, my silence sounded just like noise.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anything but. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I know you said women can handle pain. I don't know if you want to say we can handle pain, we just check out. We check out. And when you've gone through so much, you just check out. And you don't, you forget that you can check into God. Because I think that's what I forgot. I forgot that I could check into God, but I was so checked out that it was like, what else can you do to me? What else can happen? What else, God, what else can happen? I'm checked out. Like, it's nothing else for me to check into. And I just, it seemed like it was no coming back, to the situation, to rectify it, to, we had gone through counseling, but I still was checked out, even through counseling. I think I was just going through the motions at the time, but, you say we can handle pain, but we women, we do take on a lot. We do, but that pain is something. And then when we meet someone, that pain is still there.
Wow. I can see that. And I know my situation. When I was even dealing with the subject of shame, I was hoping I could talk my way back in the house before people found out.
Yeah.
Because we had 20 years, because we had 3 beautiful children, because we knew the Lord. We knew the Lord when I was making my mistakes. Don't get me wrong. But I thought at this point, 20 years, like you said, after 20 years, might well go ahead and figure this thing out, But we were still young, so she still had time to get her life. Let me read Sunshine Shining's comment right quick. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
She said, shame kept me trying to live a lie. No one would believe a pastor was abusing his wife. I carried the shame. Wow. Over 20 years, God sent a messenger to warn me to choose myself and live, guilty of what people thought of me for staying. Then she said, 10 years later, I'm living my best life with therapy, prayer, self-care to get up, live again. I now dance, sing, traveling all over the world, being free to just be. And I appreciate you for traveling all over the world. Yeah, that's Melisa. Melisa Wood. She's great people. I always had a heart for ministry, and she knew me and my ex. She used to bring my ex and have her speak at her church, and would have me come. And but yeah, she and nobody would have ever known, because we didn't argue. we didn't fight. Especially we weren't gonna do no stuff like that in public. She was a lady, you know what I'm saying? I don't argue with nobody. I can't fight, so I don't argue with women anyway. You know what I'm saying? So, but maybe we should have learned how to argue. I don't know. But we're talking about the shame aspect of it. So can you relate to showing up on the outside while disappearing on the inside?
Yes, absolutely. I was going to church, and I was at church, but I wasn't at church, Like, I would go, he would preach, and I would fake the amens and this and that because I just didn't want the church to know what was going on, in our home or whatever, lots of times. So, or if I really just knew I couldn't show up, I wouldn't show up. I wouldn't go. I would just stay home. And so, mhm.
All right, to the audience that's listening, we're gonna take a break right here. Stay here, Keisha. You got time? You good? You good?
I
You good?
do. I have time.
Okay. Listen, Keisha was following our page last week and saw some of our questions, and she was like, "Listen, these things need to be talked about." And I invited her to come on and have a conversation, and she's here now. Y'all know my girl is LaRue, so I got to bring LaRue in so LaRue can give LaRue. Keisha is my late mother. Her middle
Okay.
name was LaRue, so I have a digital avatar that I call LaRue, and I talk about LaRue's ingredients. And every show she comes on and gives us some advice. So let's see what LaRue had to say this week. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Ingredient is simple. Shame is a liar. Shame will tell you that your mistake is your identity. Shame will tell you that because you fell, you can never stand again. Shame will tell you that because a chapter ended badly, the entire book is ruined. But shame lies. You are not your divorce. You are not your failure. You are not your worst decision. You are not the thing that happened to you. You are still here. You are still growing. You are still becoming. So tonight, I want to encourage you, stop introducing yourself by your wound. Stop defining yourself by your lowest moment. Stop giving permanent labels to temporary seasons. And if you're watching someone else struggle, don't become another voice of shame. Become a voice of grace. Because people don't heal from being condemned. They heal from being reminded that they still have value. Remember this ingredient. What happened to you is part of your story, but it is not your identity.
All right.
Love that.
Did she say? Did she make sense tonight?
Yes, she did.
She made some good sense. If you don't learn, thank you, Mama. Appreciate you, Mama, speaking to us from heaven. So I appreciate you. She, that's some good ingredients. Shame that is not your identity. Hey, it's what you went through, but it's not your identity, and you don't. And you know what? Just because somebody calls you certain things, you don't have to answer to that. My daddy was very specific. When my mama tried to call me Michael, my daddy changed it. He's like, no, I want a junior or a second. So that's my name. That's what I am. Don't call me Jim. Don't call me anything else, but my name is James. So Shame tries to call you something else. All right, we're gonna talk. I'm gonna get you with one more point, y'all. I'm gonna get her through one more point because I know she had to work today. I was off today. So I'm gonna get her through one more point. And listen, the link is in the chat. If you want to be a part of the conversation, hey, if you got a question for Keisha, the link is in the chat. Phone numbers there. This format is supposed to be open mic night. This is supposed to be a place for me to allow you to tell your story, especially if you're healed or if you're healing. I put a post on Facebook today and nobody called it. But I said if you've gotten to a place where you're able to say ouch, that's a healing place. Because now you at least you know boundaries. Because how many times has somebody said ouch? I mean, you stepped on your toe and you cussed them out. You didn't say anything because you were ashamed, whatever. But when you're able to really say ouch and recognize that pain, that's a powerful position to be in. All right, so let's transition right quick, Keith. Let's transition now, because we're talking about this showing up publicly, but being empty on the inside. And when you're hurting internally, this is what I've learned. When you're hurting internally, the next thing that usually happens naturally, and this is what I did, is you start to pull away. What I did was I isolated, and what isolation does and what it can do is it'll let shame run unopposed because you don't have anything to balance out the shame. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can you relate to that? Tell me if you can relate to that or not.
Yeah, because after everything happened, I was working 2 jobs, so I really didn't go out on a scene, and I didn't really even want to go out because of the things that happened after the divorce. It was some decisions made. I would speak on it, but I just I would like to be transparent in the area, but right now I just can't because
Understandable.
but that person moved on. and very quickly. And so I just wanted to stay in the house at all times. I didn't want to run into that person. I didn't want to be around that person, you know, or the families, none of it. I just wanted to just go home and get up under my bed every day after work. I still was showing up for work. I didn't let that stop me from, you know, going to work, because you got to make your money. You still got to pay bills. That doesn't stop because you're, you know, but it will put you in a deep depression. And I felt myself going there. I saw it. I seen it, and, you know, just I watched it take me down through there. You know, the depression was real bad. And so, um, I kept begging God. I was like, Lord, just lift this off of me, this depressive state. This is not who I am. You know, I love to laugh. I love to talk. I love, you know, I love to dance and stuff. And and that was not me for a few years. I'm finally getting back to that place. I'm, you know, finally getting back to where, you know, hey, I can go outside. It's okay, you know.
Yeah,
That was tough. That was real tough. You know, I
yeah.
don't know for any other ladies.
Talk to them. Keep talking. Talk to the ladies.
You know,
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I don't know about any other ladies that have gone through a divorce, but you know, um, you just wanna stay inside. I know some people, you know, I see some stuff on Facebook like, if he leave, I'm out tomorrow, you know, and that may be true for some, but for others, you know, it wasn't for me. I wasn't out tomorrow. I was like, you know, I really want to stay in the house. I really got to rethink this. I really, you know, my kids, you know, they're grown. What are we doing? You know, but
Wow.
you know.
I can, and so many people resonate with your story. They just haven't articulated it, right? You know, because
Mhm,
isolation you know, isolation for me, I got quiet, and it was kind of a
mhm,
forced isolation. I imagine she was isolated in the house, even though it's one thing to be isolated and alone, but you could be isolated in a crowd. You know,
mhm,
you could have people all around you and still. So I can imagine even at home in my former home, you know, she was still isolated in her own way. But me, I got quiet not because I wanted privacy. That wasn't it. Not, but the problem was, and what I've learned now is that shame prefers secrecy. Because
mhm,
what isolation does, with isolation, shame gets to tell its own story without interruption because it has nothing to balance you out. It just keeps reminding you over and over again. That's why when I talked a few weeks ago about the mirror in the house becoming furniture, the mirror had a purpose in my life, Keisha, but I didn't use it. I never looked at it because I didn't need it.
mhm,
I could brush my teeth without looking in the mirror. I could tie my tie riding down the road. I didn't
mhm.
need the mirror. And so if I didn't look in the mirror, I didn't see what other people told me they saw. Does that make sense? And so
Yeah.
by the same token, if you isolate and all you get to hear is the stories of shame and you find yourself in the grace gap because there's a gap, but sometimes we place a gap between us and the grace that God really wants to give us, right?
Mhm,
And the grace gap consists of guilt, resentment, anxiety, right? Condemnation, ego, all of those things create the grace gap. And when those things are operating in our lives, we put a gap between us and the grace that God so freely wants to give us. And the way it works is when shame has gotten the chance to tell its story. No competing voices, no healthy perspectives, no reminder of who you are and who you're supposed to be. Just you and your stinking thinking.
I like that.
Just you and your thoughts. And the problem is that pain rarely gets smaller in isolation. Pain has a way of magnifying.
Mhm.
Y'all talk to me in the chat for real. Y'all got real quiet on me tonight. Y'all talk to me tonight. If I'm not making sense, let me know. Because I know I'm saying it from the male perspective. Keisha's saying it from the female perspective. And like I said, once again, thank you for your transparency. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
So many people are afraid to give their emotions a microphone. But if we really believe that testimonies are, you know, are for the overcoming of the saints to help others get through, I look at it like blazing a trail. If I figured out how to get over, I should have left some markings behind me to help the next generation come along. Because it's somebody now that's getting ready, that's married, that might be dealing with an issue. And if they say, you know what, or it's somebody who's divorced and shame has been rearing its ugly head. And now after this talk, they can leave this conversation knowing that shame is a liar.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying. One more point, and I'll let you go tonight. And I'll probably go ahead and end this conversation. We might do part 2 next week because I want this to be a good conversation. Listen, the phone number is 404-860-2775. The link is in the chat. If you want to come on camera. Y'all can talk. I don't censor anyone. Just be respectful. That's it. But and if you're watching tonight, let me put this on the screen. If you are watching tonight, where am I looking at? Did I put it in here? Maybe I didn't put it on here. Maybe I did. I'm sometimes moving too fast. Okay, if you're watching tonight and you've been carrying something by yourself, consider who you need to talk to, because let me just say this: healing rarely happens alone. All right, and I made the mistake. I made the mistake of trying to heal alone in isolation. I tried to get on podcasts and tell my story. I did all those things, but it took me a long time to experience therapy, to go to therapy. And therapy was, and I didn't go to therapy until after I had tried. I almost ended up in a relationship that I don't even think I was intentionally trying to get into. And then when that person really wasn't, and then when that person left too, I was like, God, everybody leaving me, is it me? You know, and all of a sudden I was out there bad. But the first therapist, y'all should have prayed for the first therapist, because she got the rough version of me. Y'all, the people who call me the mind massager know why they call it, because I will create conflict in a heartbeat, even to a therapist. I had her, so if she would make me mad, I would do whatever I could to confuse her, whatever. It just would make me. But anyway, I'm sorry, my therapist. I can't say her name. But the second therapist, she checked me pretty good, and she was young. Look, girl, just checked the heck out of me. The way she would look at me, I'd be so embarrassed. Anyway, but here's the last point. This, and maybe I'm gonna see if you can relate. And if you're in the chat and you can relate, please, ma'am, please, sir. The story I was telling myself was written by the wrong narrator, because one of the biggest discoveries I made was realizing that nobody was criticizing me more than me. Was that your story?
Probably so, but I still felt like that there were people criticizing because of the way the story was told. It wasn't told correctly. It wasn't told all the way to truth. You know, it was a lot of pieces and parts that was left out. So I felt like, you know, the people that inserted themselves in that process of divorce just did not know the whole story, did not know all the missing pieces and parts. And so I felt like they were writing a story that wasn't my story. I had my own story to write, but I allowed people to write pieces and parts, and I was trying to defend it too many places, and I got tired. I really got tired, and I just was like, okay, let them write whatever, you know, let them say whatever. But you know, the truth, you know, like they say, 3 people know the truth: you, that person, and God. You know, so I was like, you know what, the story is gonna be what the story is, whether I defend it or not. But me writing my story, it just was not what was told. So, you know,
and let's go deeper than the actual goings ons of the actual within the relationship. Let's go about the feeling that it made you, how it made you feel. You know, even to hear the lies, to hear, because number one, you already got, first of all, you got to deal with the reality that you're going through a divorce. You got to go deal with the reality that somebody you walked the aisle with and made nuptials with in front of God to be with until death do you part. You got to deal with that reality that you're not living together. But then you couple that with false narratives and all of those things. Did it make you question who you were? Did shame show up and say, well, maybe I didn't get that wrong, or were you could talk about that process?
So I'm gonna just keep it 100. I was to the point I wanted to call people and cuss them out. I really was. I was like, I know I can do that, but I was ready to call people and cuss them out. I even told some of our mutual friends, I said, you know what, you ain't gotta choose who you want to be friend. I'm just gonna choose for you. Go over there and be his friend. I
Oh,
don't even want
wow.
to be your friend anymore because I was so upset about the narrative and how how people were choosing different things, and I was like, you know what, God, I'm gonna cuss them out. I'll talk to you about it later. I'm just gonna call every single person that has something to say
Uh,
and cuss them out. But I didn't do that. I wanted to. The flesh was very weak, but
yeah.
you know um
Well,
yeah, that's what it was hard. That was hard.
I know
I
that,
was
and
like, dang, is it me? What is it?
I can say for me, I was my own prosecutor. I was the defendant. I was the judge, and somehow every trial ended with the same verdict. It really did. I was guilty.
Mhm,
I literally
mhm,
felt like I was there was, and that's what shame does to a person. You know what I'm saying? And even there were
mhm,
times she would tell me, because she had to send me a lifeline. James, I wasn't at a certain point. I stopped being a wife. I only started being a mother. I was, I kind of checked out. And da 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 da. So
mhm,
I didn't do this for you because but that's what shame does. It becomes a false narrator.
mhm,
And if and this is for somebody who needs to hear it, if you listen to shame long enough, you start believing a voice that was never qualified to define you. In my 50s, I've learned that I wrote I didn't write them. Unwritten rules were written for me in my teenage years that I was still abiding by in my 40s and 50s.
mhm,
I remember my dad used to teach me, Keisha, whenever I would lose it or get upset, whatever. He said, "Go take a nap. Go lay down. I need you to go get control. Go lay down." So I would go lay down. And then when I got in trouble at school, I didn't get spankings. My mama used to punish me. I would get grounded. And grounded,
mhm,
I had to stay in my room. So my room became a mental
mhm,
isolation. And my bed was a place where I laid the whole time I was in there. So whenever I would get depressed, whenever I would get down, even now, one of the first things I want to do is go and get in my bed
mhm.
and stay
Yeah.
there. And that's a
Mhm,
rule that I wrote for myself, right? Because even after I wrote a book. I don't know if you ever saw it, but I wrote a book called Stuck on the Couch. And I talked about my
mhm,
process during the divorce, stuck on the couch. And but after I got off the couch, I'm gonna be honest with you, a little while later, I ended up going right into the bedroom,
mm.
which was no better than being on the couch.
Just
You know what I'm
transferred your
saying?
energy.
Just transferred my energy, right? So that's why I said sometimes I said earlier, I don't know if you were on when I said it, sometimes we confuse surviving and healing.
Yeah, I wasn't on when you first started because I had just gotten off of work, but
Uh,
we confuse that a lot.
yeah.
Like you were speaking earlier about therapy. Therapy, I wish everyone would, we as African Americans, we sometimes don't think therapy works, but it does. It
It
does.
does.
I'm currently in therapy now, and you know, it is a blessing, you know.
It, wa- it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And it was
Mhm.
just, and it was real. And like I said, I gave the first therapist grief. I ain't gonna lie. She caught
Mm.
a bad version of me, but the second one, and I ain't gonna lie, my best friend, one of my better preacher friends, he's a therapist. And I would check with him to make sure she was doing it right. That's how bad I was. But
Wow.
when I got that second therapist, like I said, younger lady, she wasn't putting up with no mess from me. You know what I'm saying? But when she taught me every day, she would just say, tell me about your wins. She would have me do like a gratitude journal. Tell me about your wins. Tell me about your wins. And one day, I never will forget this. And I'm promised we're going to close because I only want to be on for an hour tonight. But we'll do part two another night, maybe next Monday, maybe one day during the week. I'll see. But one day, and I'm learning how to recognize my emotions. Real talk, I'm learning how to recognize my emotions. But this one day, she said, "Tell me about your day." I said, "I got up, I washed and dried the clothes. I took them out of the dryer, folded them right then, put them up, and I said that felt good. You know what she said? Good job. Because
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that emotion after. Because a lot of times, I just take the clothes, throw them over in the chair for a little while. Then when I feel like folding them, I put them up. But that day, I saw it through. You know what I'm saying? I completed
Mm-hmm.
it, and that felt good. And I recognized that emotion, and I realized, and the empowerment that I felt in that moment by being able to grab that emotion and do what I wanted to with it because it was mine. That was a
Mm-hmm.
powerful place. That was a powerful place to be in. And I want to get people to that place where we're able to recognize those emotions. So how many times have we been guilty of flying off the handle?
Oof, I
And then
don't
you
have
wake
no
up,
fingers and toes.
you ain't got no fingers and toes. Please, I hope you don't, because you'll be a mutant. That would not be good. But but how many times have you lost control? That's what Daddy did teach me. Pops, thank you. But Pops said a man maintains control at all times, right? But that moment you lose control because you didn't recognize that emotion, right? And I'm at a point now, I might cuss you out, and I know how to cuss without using cuss words too. Like I, I joke when I say this, Keisha, but I do mean it. And I'm laughing, but very serious. I tell people that my stress level went down the more my middle finger went up. But I've learned how to cast my middle finger without actually putting my middle finger up. If I look at you like this, you probably just got it. You know what I'm saying? So,
Okay.
and I could do that, and I could do that with a smile on my face. I don't have to be angry. You know what I'm saying? Because I've gotten control of my emotions. Now, if I got angry and you took me there, it was probably calculated. Somebody tried me on the job
Mm-hmm.
the other day. On the job, they got it because I wanted to let them know it was still there. Sometimes you don't have to bite nobody, but you can show them you have teeth. And
Mm-hmm.
those are called boundaries, and that's what that was. So, and I'm at a point now where I'm getting beyond the shame. Listen, y'all, we've had Keisha Stewart on tonight. This is one of our Facebook friends. We're from the same city. They're in North Little Rock / Little Rock, Arkansas. You went to Mount St. Mary's, or did you? She went to
Yes.
school. She went to school with the rich folks. No, I'm just joking. I bet that was a whole nother story in and of itself.
Yeah, I was
Especially
the only black in my graduating class, so just
that's what
imagine.
that's what I was going to say. I bet that's a whole different podcast in and of itself, because Mount
Yes.
St. Mary is not one of our schools, but it was supposed to be an institute of higher or academics and whatnot, private school.
Mm-hmm.
But she did graduate from there. I went to public
Mm-hmm.
school, North Little Rock, Old Main. My school ain't even around no more. They don't even use our building no more. But anyway, that's my school. But Keisha, thank you for tapping in tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and do my little
Thank
closing
you.
remarks for tonight, and we're gonna get you again if you'll come back.
I will. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you
I
all.
appreciate you. I appreciate you. All right, y'all. That could be you. That can easily be you, because this is open mic night. This is not a monologue. This is a dialogue. This is a conversation with your experiences as well as mine. And as I am seeking to lead a generation of us into a state or a place of healing, it takes these types of conversations. I had 8 points tonight, and I only got through 4 of them. So we might do it the rest of them next week. We might do them one day this week. Y'all gonna have to follow. You're gonna have to hit the notification button. You're gonna have to keep up if you want to get keep up with what's going on with the intellectual stew. I am going to be a man of my word. I've been on for about an hour and 7 minutes. I only want to keep these shows at about an hour. If you are interested in being a guest, or if you have a show idea, feel free to go to our website. It is podcast theintellectualstew.com. I'm trying to see if I got it up. Podcast theintellectualstew.com. I don't have it up. Let me make a banner right quick. Podcast. Can I type that fast? Dot the intellectual stew. Did I spell it right? Let's see. All right, podcast the intellectual stew. Yeah, go there. You can listen to past episodes. You can register if you want to make a show idea. Follow the podcast. Go get your dashboard, whatever you want to do. We're building a community here, and we want you to be a part of that community. Also, if you have gone through a divorce and you want to go through the recalibration process that I put together, I did put together something called the Divorce Reset System. There's a 7-day free trial. You're welcome to go and check out that 7-day free trial. But it is the Divorce Reset System.com. Divorce is disruption. Recalibration is a decision. It is a 90-day structured reset guided by Compass, which is my personal AI calibration strategist. But that's it, the Divorce Reset System. If you want to try it out for 7 days and then cancel, you are welcome to do that. You're welcome to do that. But that is it, the Divorce Reset System.com. I put that together to help us, those of us, especially my sisters, go through a 90-day recalibration process. It is 90 days every day. It gives you some type of instruction, gives you some type of devotion. But after 90 days, we should be recalibrated. A lot of these things are what I've gone through and what I put her through. I'm sorry. I apologize. If y'all see her, tell her I said I'm sorry. All right. So also, let me do one last commercial, and then we're about to go. If you didn't catch this, go back and watch the replay. But let me do this one last commercial, and then we're going to go. Here we go. Pastor, what happened the last time someone called your church and nobody answered? Did they call back? Statistics say most of them didn't. Sister Clark makes sure that never happens again. She answers your church phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She welcomes first-time visitors, captures prayer requests, routes messages to your leadership, and logs everything to a dashboard your team can check anytime. No contracts, no IT department. Live in less than 24 hours. She's not just an answering service. She's a church growth tool. And tonight only, use code SUNDAY50 at checkout for 50% off your setup deposit. Visit sisterclark.com to experience the demo right from your browser. No sign up required. Sister Clark, ministry that never sleeps. All right. That's something I'm like super proud of, for real. I built that and it's going to help a lot of churches. So I am super excited about that. All right. So it's been real tonight. If Shame has been narrating your story, maybe tonight is the night you fire the narrator. Maybe tonight is the night you stop calling yourself what happened to you. Maybe, just maybe tonight is the night you stop measuring your future by your worst chapter. If this conversation helped you, do me a favor and share it. Tag someone who needs it. And in the comments, answer this question for me. What's one lie Shame told you that you're finally ready to stop believing? If you want to support us, feel free to support us. And that's it. Remember this, the world is changing. My question for you is, why do you remain the same? Y'all have a good day.
Intellectual stew. Oh, we're cooking something true.
Marriage for him is like making mashed potatoes.
Intellectual stew. Real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirkland guiding through the deep, the light,
Let me ask you
the old, the new. Intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view.